Well, we have breaking news in the IRS scandal. Fox News has learned that Lois Lerner, the IRS official who revealed that the agency had been targeting conservatives, will invoke the Fifth Amendment when she appears tomorrow at the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Meanwhile, today, former IRS Commissioner Douglas Shulman testified on Capitol Hill for the first time since it was revealed that his agency was targeting conservative groups seeking tax-exempt status. Now, while that was going on, White House spokesman Jay Carney revealed the White House and the IRS had previously discussed how they were going to frame their story to the public.
You're saying there were some preliminary discussions with the White House about the IRS issuing an apology through a Lois Lerner speech.
There were discussions between the Treasury, Chief of Staff's office, and Office of General Counsel, and the White House Counsel's office and Chief of Staff's office about the timing of this information release and the findings themselves.
So now we know the White House was not only aware of this scandal a month ago, but that they seriously considered a preemptive response. Now, as for the president, the White House continues to not only claim he learned about it from newspapers, but that it didn't bother him that he wasn't notified.
Thanks, Jay. When the president learned about the findings of the IRS audit in the newspaper, did he ask senior advisors why he was learning about this from the newspaper?
No, I don't believe he did. I wasn't present when he learned about it, but I know that he was not happy with the apparent conduct because, again, this was incomplete information.
Unbelievable. Greg, for 3 weeks we now know, based on this shifting timeline, that they sat around and colluded on how to message this without telling the president, and the president just read about it. Are you buying what Carney is trying to sell?
This administration is as transparent as a burqa. Right now, the whole IRS story was supposed to be, gee whiz, we didn't know anything about it. But now we find out that it's more choreographed than Cats. I mean, that question was planted. They had a discussion before they planted that question. It's incredible, and then everybody keeps saying how they don't know. Weren't they supposed to be the best and the brightest? Weren't the Republicans supposed to be stupid, and the Democrats were going to be so smart? But it turns out they're as dumb, if not dumber, than Republicans. And no one really wants to get to the bottom of this because it will be the bottom of their misdeeds. So they just want to push it off.
And Lois Lerner, Kimberly, tomorrow is going to plead the Fifth. And it looks like it might not be that she's pleading the Fifth on how she went after the Tea Party, but the cover-up, Kimberly, because she has contradicted herself and previous statements. She has lied so many times, and now she says, I don't want to talk on the Hill.
Well, it's always a cover-up, but that'll get you. Just ask Martha Stewart. That and lying to the government, that'll get you making ponchos in prison. Lois Lerner's dead woman walking. Okay, so this is no surprise she's taking the Fifth. And really, if she doesn't have anything to hide, why does she have to take the Fifth Amendment? Because guess what? There's criminal activity afoot, people. That's the Fox News alert for today. And they're ducking and running for cover. And they should, but I hope they're diligent and get after this.
Hey, Eric, can I ask you about this article in the American Spectator? It's been reported that the IRS union chief, Colleen Kelly, met with President Obama on March 30th, 2010 in a face-to-face meeting.
Even worse, 31st.
The day after, it looks like they began the IRS targeting Tea Party groups.
According to the Inspector General, who picked out April 1st as the day they started this process, according to White House logs, Ms. Kelly visited the White House. Now, what did she talk about? By the way, it says visited POTUS. Didn't say FLOTUS. Didn't say anyone else. It said visited the president. I don't know. Who knows? Another one, I'll give you another one. Jack Lew used to be chief of staff for President Obama, who now heads the Treasury. The Treasury oversees the IRS. It gets worse. By the way, tyrannical governments know no bounds. We're probably going to find out someday down the road that this is one of the most corrupt governments in American history.
We don't know that now?
If the lapdog media ever decides to get off of President Obama's
what day did they have that meeting?
The 31st, March 31st, 2010.
Very quickly, Bob, you want to get in here, but taking the Fifth, I'm not sure she's just protecting herself. I think she's going to, Lois Lerner, she's going to take the Fifth tomorrow to protect herself, obviously, but also to protect maybe the White House. Or maybe she's afraid of the backlash from the White House if she doesn't.
Bob?
Is your assumption here then, as if I follow your reasoning, as corrupt as it is, that they had this visit and the President of the United States said, I want you to get your people to investigate conservative groups?
I didn't put myself in the meeting. I simply said, The head of the IRS union, employees union, went to see President Obama on March 31st. According to the Inspector General of this whole mess, on April 1st, the very next day, is the day they started campaigning against Tea Party.
The head of the Teamsters met with the president. Virtually every head of a union meets with the president in election year. And they then went out on strike in a couple of places. Does that mean that he said go out and strike in these areas?
I didn't say
that.
that.
No, but the day, Bob, it's start to smell when the day after they start to target conservative groups. And Shulman was on the Hill today. He says he doesn't believe that he was aware the IRS was targeting conservative groups. But you made a great point last week. The president should apologize. Shulman did not today, and he was the acting head of the IRS.
Can I make a point? The Tax Policy Center, and we know this statistic is true, that 47% do not pay federal taxes.
Yeah.
So when you hear all this stuff, and when we're doing this story, that means 47%. To them, it's like soccer highlights on the news. They just completely tune out. And that's why the Democratic Party needs to have a dependent class, because the dependent class relies on the IRS as their muscle.
And why not take out the Tea Party? They were the ones calling to shrink the IRS, so of course they're in the crosshairs.
And apparently, so does the administration.
Yeah.
All right.